On the budget speech, and of course I'm joined by Israel Mkhize in the studio, who is a political economist with Bukindaba Consulting. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, looking at the general economic landscape of the country, the minister had a real challenge to address these issues one by one. Let's talk about the main challenge here: economic growth and the realistic figure that he really talked about. Moving from 0% growth, do you think that we have a realistic takeoff?
Well, I think you have to look at it from the year-on-year projection, where you could actually compare the last projection of last year, which was at 1.9%, and then it was revised in the medium-term budget speech to 0.5. Then it went below a percentage. Now it's said to be at still below the percentage, but it's projected to 1.3. So compared to last year, it's still not there, because it's 1.3 now, and then it was 1.9 last year. So there is still that effect, long-term effect of the very sluggish growth and not quite a responding economy.
Talking about sluggish growth, he says that there has been low profitability due to this low economic growth, and 0%, of course, has been weighing on profitability in the private sector.
Of course, companies have had a few things that have hit them. For instance, the whole commodity cycle, where there was low demand, and with other African economies which we trade with, or even European economies that we trade with, who were not really responding to the export demand. So some of our exports were really not that demanded. So it hit on the companies that are trading. The 2-year back rain shortfall obviously affected the agricultural sector. So the businesses over time, because with the economic growth, things that happen today do not necessarily have results today. They can have results, say, 6 months from now. So the slow growth has been a result of an incurring over time for the past, say, 18 months. And you can compare that with the growth trends, even at the global level. For instance, you've had the IMF downgrading the growth projections, even for the global growth, and at some point the African growth was projected 4.3%, but it was revised down to about 3.8%. So there has been those difficulties. Yeah.
Now there has been a problem about where are we going to get the money to raise funds. Now the issue of 14% VAT is out. Now the contentious issue of those who earn more pay more.
Look, when we're coming into the budget, we're speculating that is he going to raise personal income tax? Is it going to be VAT? Where is he going to get the money for the state? Mind you that during the low growth period, the state still has to have revenue. But if there's no growth, then the tax base is quite small. Then you have to try to see where you go. So people are predicting is going to go for big business, but at the same time, you need to encourage big business to come and invest and bring more money into the economy. Or is he going to go for the so-called social underclass? But he went for the middle. Obviously, they will feel the pinch at 1.5, that 45%. They will definitely feel the pinch. However, I think someone had to take the fall for the current economic climate, because there has to be revenue. Mind you that there was a sort of a tax shortfall in the last financial year because of low wages, businesses closing down, with the businesses, some of them liquidating. Obviously, there was a massive retrenchment. And also, when you look at the sectors that are growing, the sector that grew in this financial year was your services sector. That's the one that really brought bread on the table, if you will. And you go to manufacturing, you go to mining, especially mining was quite hit hard, a number of job losses there. So you then try to look for a particular area in the economy to raise money.
I want to move a little bit faster now so that we can touch on education. An additional 5 billion rand into the budget of education, and especially given that we've had the Fees Must Fall campaign.
Well, it's good news for the students, especially the reassurance that those who had qualified for NSFAS and accepted in higher education will get the support that is needed. Obviously, what is trying to balance there is the whole demand and supply. While there's a demand for student education and so on, there also has to be this incentive from government to say we can see that from the household base, there isn't much to take the students to school, so at least government must incentivize them.
Okay, now with the unemployment rate at 27% and with such a very minimal economic growth projection, are we really likely to have a really realistic number of job creation? Because he talked about 1 million job opportunities for the young.
Well, there's just two things that are important. First is to spread the sectors that you can identify. I know that Mkhize has done a study to nail down the National Development Plan into 5 sectors, and then they estimated that perhaps this sector can create this X number of jobs and then have this contribution into the GDP. But what is most important is what he touched on the blockages of what kills small businesses, because this budget speech for me was more of a motivation even to the small business owners to say, look, ministers, officials pay business people within 30 days so that they don't go for 60 days and then their business is closed down and so on and so forth. So you could see that there was a going back into the role of the municipalities and local departments to encourage people to come forward and do business. And also there's a lot of legislation which came forward, or which he said is being reviewed, to really ensure that it's easy to do business. One of the things I can quote was when he spoke about easy registration, easy ability to pay the tax, and easy ability to be paid.
I'd like us to talk about the things that are not in the budget right now.
Right.
What do you think that the minister avoided, sidestepped? I know at the top of everybody's mind would have been nuclear in as far as power generation is concerned.
Oh, well, that's above my paycheck. But I've listened to both sides of the debate. Those who feel that we need it, those who say, no, we don't need it. And if you are careful to listen to those who say we need it, they'll give you somehow quite intelligent explanations from the strategic on the balance of scale of geopolitics in a country that owns that kind of capacity. You know, so then it makes a lot of sense when you look at it from there. But then those who are looking at it from the numbers, they obviously have certain cases. So I will not get in. I'll just go around the house and not.
Okay, before we take a break,
right,
let's talk about how he addressed the issue of collusion, whether it's in construction, in the bread industry, or even in the banking sector.
Well, it was very bold of him to come out and address the issue of collusion. Obviously, there's been fire under his feet the whole week. His head has been caught, you know, because he's the supervisor of that sector, your finance, your treasury, as well as the so-called independent reserve bank. But it was very interesting for him not to just specifically address the bank's issue, but to go across board and also go on issues of agriculture and go on issues of bread. Mm-hmm. So he was talking about it, but he was not talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just before we take a break,
right,
I'd like you to get your interpretation of these statements that he made towards the end of his speech.
Right.
He says, obstacles there will be many, overcome them. Detractors abound, disprove them. Negativity inspired by greed and selfishness will obstruct us, defeat the bearers of this toxic ethic. What do you make out of that?
Well, it's self-explanatory. You know, I would say that it's an innocent statement, but because of the current political economy, it may stand for many types of interpretations, which I will not go into. But it's trying also to say we are reassuring the investor that, look, we will not succumb to tendencies that are sort of antagonistic to the sentiment, because you know how investors are with the whole notion of sentiment. And one of the things which he said, which I think interprets the statement, is when he said globally there is an emerging rise in terms of growth that is beginning to pick up, but it is somehow disturbed or mitigated by unstable political economy. So it's those two things, the numbers and the narrative.
Okay, I'd like you to hold on to that now. We're going to have to take a break. Well, Israel Mkhize is giving us his analytical perspective on the budget speech by Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan. And we continue after this. Stay with us.